Okay, in my last little practice saxophone lesson, I was talking about, just practicing and what you should practice and how you should practice and what is your mindset when practicing. But today we're going to focus more on the what you should practice. Now, when you think about what you should practice, first thing you need to think about is sight reading. Am I reading the music efficiently? Am I, and I hate sight reading. I hate sight reading so much. So much. I hate sight reading. It's not so much that I hate it. It's just that I can't do it, which makes me, not want to do it. But I should get out of that mentality of not wanting to do it because I know I want to be a better musician. So I carry around these books with me, of music, just regular music, and I sit there and I try to read it sometimes, but not enough. I spend way more time trying to make my sound better than actually reading the music. And I spend way more time on scales than I do actually reading the music, which is not good to be a well-balanced musician. But I kind of find a balance in all of that. I mean, it's not like I can't read music. I can read music to a certain extent that a lot of people are like, well, it's half decent, he can get away with that. But I don't want to just get away with that. And I really have been dreading this music thing for a while, and I really need to stop this sight reading music thing. I've been really dreading it for a while, and a lot of people who work with me know that. It's like, why are you still dreading this thing? Why don't you just get up here and do it? I know my session captain was like, it's not hard. He always tells me, he said, it's not hard. Stop being lazy and just do it. And every time I look at music, I think about that, and he just sits there and he says it. I'm just imagining his voice right now just saying, it's not hard. Do it. Stop being lazy. It's right there on a piece of paper. And he says it all in one sentence. Like, it's one word. It's like, it's right there. It's on a piece of paper. Stop being lazy and just do it. But yeah, I really need to start getting on that site reading music. But other than that, I would spend more time on other categories like scales. You need to spend time doing scales. I know my mentor always told me, he said, oh, so you know the scale, huh? And I was like, yeah. And Mr. B, my mentor. So if you want to see him or know or find out who he is, go down in the videos and look at me and Mr. B, Stanley Bear episode. Just search in my videos, you'll find it. But I can do a pretty good Mr. B interpretation. He's there. So your F sharp major scale, huh? That's like a scale with a ridiculous amount of sharps in it. He's like, I was like, yeah, I know it. Yeah, I know it. And I'm all confident and cocky, and he's like, oh, okay, we'll play it. And I'll play it, and he's like, okay, well, that's terrible. And I'm like, well, why is it terrible? I played the scale. I didn't miss any notes. I didn't miss any sharps. And then this was back in my early high school days where, learning all your major scales was, imperative or kind of mandatory, at the time. So he was kind of like, well, you know what? Why don't you take that, that 7-note scale and take it, or excuse me, 8-note scale and take it to the ninth. And 8 notes, including the root note at the bottom and the root note at the top. So if you start on F sharp, you got an F sharp at the bottom and an F sharp at the top. So he was like, why don't you take that to the ninth? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, why don't you take that scale and alter it to where you adding an extra note at the top and going back down. I was like, okay. So I was like, I play F sharp, and the scales, and then I got to the top F sharp, and I was like, okay, what do I do next? It's like, go to the next note. I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, go to the next note. And I was like, okay. And this is out of the range, that you're used to. If you start on low F sharp and you go all the way to the F sharp with the palm keys and all this other stuff, and your hands are about to fall off the instrument, he's like, go to the next note. That's Altissimo G. And I was like, okay, So I put Altissimo G in there, and then I go back down. And he's like, oh, that was horrible. And needless to say, it wasn't good. But he taught me that you need to take what you already know in the scale, A.S.T.W.O, always something to work on, flip it around, put the arpeggios in it, go from 1 to 3. So when I say go to 1 to 3, I mean do the scale in thirds, do them in, I think, fifths. You can do them in fifths, make a musical sense out of it. You could, you know, it's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with that one scale. And he just kept telling me, he said, you need to stop playing it slow like you trying to learn it, because after you know it, you should be able to play it fast. If you're able to play it fast, you're able to play it slow. If you're able to play it slow, you're able to play it fast. And if you ever have problems playing it fast, then you can't play it slow. So that means you need to go back over your slowness and slow it down until you can get it like you a kindergartner and actually work on this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I did it about 5 times. I was like, oh, okay, I got it. He was like, okay. You know, and then I left the lesson and came back the next lesson, you know, and this is assuming that I practiced it. Yeah, and of course I practiced it. And he was like, alright, now let's go over it. Now I put the F sharp scale and I play it with all these sharps, and I go up and I put the little ninth in there, and I'm feeling good about myself. I put the little Altissimo G in there, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling good about it. So he's like, okay. Now when you were going from your Altissimo G to your back down to your F sharp, you was kind of slipping there with your embouchure. I was like, oh yeah, well, most people ain't used to doing that. He was like, so how much did you practice it? And I was like, you know, about 30 minutes a day. He was like, you really shouldn't think about it, you know, in time. You should think about it, you know, in how many times that you did it. I was like, oh, okay, so what do you mean? He's like, how many times did you go over the scale? And I was like, yeah, I don't know, if I was roughly guess, maybe 30 times or so, you know. And he was like, so why didn't you do it 100 times? I was like, I don't know. And he was like, well, why don't you keep doing it until you get it right? It's not about, you know, you doing it and being satisfied with it. It's about you retaining it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I kept doing it and kept doing it the next time I practiced, you know, and whether it be 50 times and I got it, whether it be 100 times and I got it. Or even if you want to even set goals for yourself like that and say, hey, well, maybe I need to practice this 100 times. Once I can get it 100 times, I can move on to the next scale. That's how you should be thinking, you know. Like one of these superheroes nowadays that get strong on willpower alone, because they keep doing it and doing it and doing it until it wears out, and now they know how to do it like the back of their hand. That's how you should do it, and with all your things, when you're studying and doing, you should do it like that. But that's what you should be doing with your music. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't be. And circular breathing, even if it's a new technique, circular breathing, why can't you do this circular breathe session for 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes? Or why can't you do it for 7 minutes instead of 10 or 5 minutes? And why can't you do it 10 minutes instead of, you know, 9 minutes? You know, always try to set higher goals for yourself, and you'll go far. My mentor heard my Altissimo. My mentor was like, well, you can do the Altissimo, you know, at a better level than I can do it. I don't really care too much for Altissimo for that matter, but he said, since you can do it, why don't you be different from everybody else and, you know, try to incorporate your own thing into it. And you know, I was like, oh, well, I never really think about that. So, you know, it's all about what you guys want to do, and I really give a lot of my secrets out to you guys, but you know, you're my loyal fans, and I feel as though if I don't have a student, you know, and I know a little bit something I can teach the world, I should help you guys, you know. So, A.S.T.W.O, always something to work on. Shout outs to Kirk William and the whole Cannonball team for putting that video together, because that really inspired me to make this video. So, A.S.T.W.O, always something to work on. So, what are you working on today?